Jesus. I'm coming here right now. I want to talk a little bit about something about Reformed theology and Calvinism. Um, I'm listening to a really good sermon by Vadi Bakum called Zeal Without Knowledge. I'm going to post the link in the description box. I suggest anybody watching this video should go listen to that sermon. Now, there's a thing, like I noticed when talking to other Christians, as soon as you mention that you're a Calvinist or you're Reformed, they automatically come to this conclusion that you're against evangelism and stuff like that, which is not true. Like, Vadim Bakum makes it perfectly clear in this sermon that that's not true. Like, yes, the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 9 does clearly talk about election and certain individuals being predestined to salvation while other individuals are predestined to damnation. But then, in Romans chapter 10, he does talk about his zeal for the Jewish people to be saved. Like, we don't know who the elect are. God uses evangelism as a means to reach the elect. Like, when someone who is of the elect hears the clear teaching of the gospel, their heart is immediately changed. God reaches down, pulls out their heart of stone, and gives them a heart of flesh. And if you're truly a Christian, you should have a desire and a zeal to see people get saved. Like, if you don't have a zeal to see people get saved, then it's really questionable if you're really a Christian or not. And so this whole idea, like, that Calvinists are against evangelism is completely stupid. Like, yes, we believe that God is sovereign. We believe that God is even sovereign over people's salvation. And people are saved not because of works. That includes your personal choice. Because if you believe that God saves you because you choose Him, then you got it backwards. Like, and you're making free will as a work, pretty much. And no, Paul makes it perfectly clear that we are saved not by our works, but by His grace. And to me, honestly, that's so freeing to know that my salvation is not in my hands. I can't control whether or not I'm saved. And that's good news, because that means when you're a Christian, your faith is secure. You have a security. You know you can't lose your salvation. Now, does that mean that you have a license to sin? No, you can't go out there, start sinning, and live a sinful lifestyle. Because once you're truly changed, when God gives you that heart of flesh, you no longer have a desire to do the things that you used to do. And you change into a completely different person. If there's no change, then that's questionable if you were really saved or not. And like, the scariest verse in the whole entire Bible is when Jesus talks about when He returns, there's going to be many that's going to come to Him saying, Lord, Lord, didn't we do this for you? Didn't we do that for you? And He's going to say, depart from me, for I never knew you. Like, and it says, Lord, Lord, because it's emphasizing that even those who will emphatically claim to be Christians, I mean, these are people that go to church every Sunday, that read their Bible, that do evangelism and stuff like that to reach people, but they were never truly changed. They never knew the Lord. But they would emphatically declare that they're a Christian, and they get turned away. Not because they were doing bad things, not because they weren't claiming to be Christian, but because they were never truly changed. They did not know the Lord. And all they had was a very strong delusion of the flesh that convinced them that they were actually saved. Like, even it says in Jude, when it talks about people walking away from the faith, Jude says they left us as evidence that they were never of us. And I just bring that up because I remember I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and he asked me, so what do you think about someone who says they're a Christian and they go to church and they reach out to lost people and try and get them saved and stuff, but then they go through some hard times and they just walk away. And I say, well, them walking away is evidence that they were never truly a Christian to begin with. Now, can Christians backslide? Yes, they can. They can backslide, they can fall into sin and stuff like that, but they will not walk away from the faith. Like, they may have a time where they backslide and they get into bad things and they end up kind of rebelling. I mean, I've gone through the periods like that, but they do not walk away from the faith. They eventually do come back. They never actually walked away from the faith. But for those who do walk away from the faith and never come back, that's evidence that they were never truly a Christian to begin with. And then Vadi Bakum also makes a good point, where he talks about Paul had an affinity for his own people. And that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an affinity towards your own people and desiring that your people are saved and praying for their salvation. Like, God makes us part of a certain people group, like, for a reason. Like, just because you become a Christian doesn't mean you walk away from your people and you don't have anything to do with them. That's not right. The fact that you're a Christian should be more important than what you are, like what people group you come from, and your ultimate goal should be desiring that everybody you come in contact with is saved, even if they're not part of your people group. However, God made you a part of that people group for a specific reason, because if you have a similar background as the people you're talking to, they'll be more likely to listen to you than they would to listen to someone outside their people group. And you could be a part of more than one people group too. And there's entire ministries that are dedicated towards specific people groups, because that's where that's where the people that are in these ministries came from. You should never forget where you came from, and you should not forsake the people that are part of the people group that you came from. Like, Paul never forgot about where he came from. And that's why, when you look at his ministry, the pattern that he always did, he would go into cities, and first, yes, he would talk to the Gentiles in the marketplace and try and he'd tell them the gospel. But then every Sabbath day, what did he do? He would go straight to the synagogue and reason with the Jews, because that's where his heart ultimately was. He wanted to see the Jewish people receive salvation. So, if you're a Christian, do not forget where you came from. And it's important that you reach out to them. I mean, they'll be more likely to listen to you than they would listen to someone outside of your people group. Like, for instance, I'm Chinese. Like, if I go and talk to another Chinese person about the gospel, he would more likely listen to me than he would listen to some white person or black person or Hispanic person. Like, just because he has a similar background to me. And also, I mean, like I said, you can be part of more than one people group. Like, I am from the ghetto. Like, so when I talk to people from the ghetto and reach out to them, they will more likely listen to me than they would listen to some rich, stuck-up person that's from the suburbs. They'll look at him and laugh at him. But when I go, or someone from their neighborhood talks to them, they'll listen to them. There's different people groups. I mean, your own family, you talk to them, they'll more likely listen to you because you're family. And if you don't have any desire to see your family get saved, if you just say, well, I'm a Christian now, I'm not part of you guys anymore, I'm part of a whole different family, that's wrong. You should have a heart for your family to be saved. You should, if at the very least, you should be praying for their salvation. You should be begging God, like praying that God saves them. But again, like I said, we don't know who the elect are. God uses evangelism as a means to reach the elect. So this whole idea that Calvinists are against evangelism is completely wrong. It really is. It's completely stupid. Um, yeah, if you're an evangelical Christian and that's what you think about us, about Reformed Christians, stop thinking like that. It's not right. And oh, another thing I wanted to talk about. I had a friend recently who's an evangelical Christian. He asked me a question because we were talking about theology, and he said, "Okay, if you believe in original sin, how do you explain in Romans 7 when Paul says before the law came, he was alive, but when the law came, he died?" And the answer to that is actually quite simple. Like, Paul didn't say he was alive in Christ before the law came, meaning he was ignorant of the law. He thought he was doing everything right. I mean, he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was taught under Gamaliel, I think his name was. So Paul was very educated. He thought he was doing everything he did according to the Torah. And it took God to knock him off his high horse and reveal to him that he really wasn't following the law. He was actually trying to kill God. And shit. Yeah, and hold on, I'm getting a call. Shit, I can't hang up the phone. Damn it. It's not letting me hang up the phone. Like I was saying, Paul was very educated. He knew and also, I mean, he knew the moral law because everybody knows the moral law. The moral law is imprinted on everybody's heart. But he thought he was doing the right thing by God by persecuting the Christians, and he was revealed that he really wasn't doing the right thing. It took God knocking him off his high horse to reveal to him that he was really dead. So that whole thing about him saying he was alive before the law came, he didn't say he was alive in Christ because before people are saved, everybody is dead in sin and trespass. There is no one that's neutral. Everybody is an enemy of God. It takes Christ, it takes God. God has to reach in, pull out your heart of stone, and give you a heart of flesh. And then that's when you become a Christian. So Christianity, someone becoming a Christian is actually a miracle in itself, that anybody can become a Christian. That's a miracle akin to Jesus rising from the dead. Because without God, becoming a Christian is actually impossible. We cannot become a Christian on our own terms. So yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Um, yeah. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe below. Because I know y'all love looking at my sexy ass face. Like I know y'all do. Shit. I love looking at my sexy ass face. Anyways, have a good day. God bless you. And deuces.